Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Karen Hurd, and we want to welcome you to another episode of Divine Healthy Living. My name is Karen Hurd, and I'm with my good friend and fitness and nutrition specialist, Donna Martin. And we are partners on the Woman Wise team. We are on a mission to transform sick care into actual health care, into actual well care in a way that's science-based and faith-filled. We've got tips, information, strategies for the real world, not some crazy thing that sounds really good in a video or a podcast or a blog, but you go to do it in real life and it just doesn't, they did it to generate content, right? But we want to let you know that in love, God created you with a purpose and a destiny. Your body was designed to live in health.
Yes.
It was designed to live in health, and that means your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit. And our purpose is to share shalom. And what that means, that's the complete wholeness and prosperity of the Lord and freedom. You were also created for freedom. So what we're talking about today in this episode, this is part 2 of diet overwhelm. It's extremely common. And if you're one of those people, and we're talking about diets and shedding weight, releasing weight, losing weight, however you like to say it or think about it. We prefer shedding and releasing versus losing, like we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, you don't want to find it again.
We don't want to find it again. It's going off into where excess weight goes to die. All right. So, but what we really want to do, though, is we want to do it in a way that makes sense. And if you're not on a journey, maybe you've already at your healthy weight, but you're at weight maintenance, or you're like, you know what, I'm stressed out all the time. I've got to learn how to manage my stress. What we're going to share today is going to be helpful no matter what goal you have with your health journey. We're going to be talking about tips. Yesterday, we talked about the mindset in part 1, what overwhelm is. And that is what causes overwhelm, whether it's in finances, in your health journey, whatever you've got to do. It's the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. Mm-hmm. And that gap is the overwhelm. So small gap, you're not overwhelmed. Big gap, you might just shut down and say, why bother? Right, Donna?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Now, as a fitness specialist and somebody's been taking a lot of people through weight loss journeys,
yes.
What have you told them in dealing with overwhelm?
Well, you have to break it up into steps. You have to look at it and take it in small chunks, because if you look at the big picture, it will be overwhelming and you will go into that mode of why bother. But if you can break it down into small chunks, and one of those chunks is that you set a date. So let's say you want to start your weight loss journey. You don't want to necessarily start that next day, but you want to take a little time to prepare. You want to get your mindset right. You want to make sure that you have the right foods in your refrigerator and in your cupboards. Mm-hmm. Time to talk to your family about what you're doing, your friends, seek their encouragement, and then approach. Then the day that it starts, then you begin the journey. But the journey actually begins on setting the date.
So that's interesting, because I always saw setting the date almost like a form of procrastination. Like, I'm not going to do it today, I'll do it next month.
And it could happen that way, absolutely. And that would also kind of let you know too where you're at in your readiness, because it is a readiness thing. And it kind of lets you know whether or not you're truly ready. And that's a really important factor also, to be honest with where you're at.
And I think that's the thing about health journeys, but in particular weight, because weight, like we talked about yesterday, is not just math.
No.
It's not just calories in, calories out. For some people it is, but for a lot of people, especially people that have had weight, trouble with their weight in one way or the other, there's a whole lot of emotional baggage and success baggage and messages and body image and just all that goes with it.
Yes.
So you have to get part 1 of Overcoming Overwhelm, where we talk a lot about that. And today we're doing the practical things. So setting the date. Now, I was reading about deadlines, and deadlines actually increasing overwhelm. So what's the difference, Donna, between setting a date to start and, say, a deadline?
Well, when you set a deadline, you're putting pressure on yourself to have something completed in a certain amount of time. And what that does is it doesn't allow wiggle room or room for mistakes. So if you happen to fall off of your journey along the way, let's say you have a couple of cheat days in the meantime, it kind of puts a little extra pressure to meet that deadline versus setting a date. You're actually taking steps to mentally prepare yourself. And that's the difference. It's not a deadline, so to speak, as you have to have this done by this day. It's the fact that you're getting excited about starting a new season, a new journey in your life.
Now, can a deadline be helpful? Can it be a way to, speaking from my real life, is there's been a number of times where I did not set a deadline. And so the cheat days would just kind of pile up there because I didn't have an end goal I was working towards, like a time frame. So how do we have that balance between a deadline that's pressure, increases overwhelm, I'll never be able to get it done by then, or can throw me into some really unhealthy decisions about maybe starving myself or what have you, because I'm nearing the deadline without the result I had hoped for, versus a deadline to keep you on track. What would you say is the trigger in someone's?
Well, there's a couple of things that you can do in order to make that not happen so often, because it is going to happen. And you have to be ready that it will happen. Not that it can, but it probably will along your journey, because it takes time, repetition every single day. Practicing it every single day is going to make you better at achieving your goal. And so it's the daily things that you do. But leading up to the day, there's also things that you can do to prepare yourself and set yourself up for success within your first week. And one of those things is that you write down some things that you can get excited about this change that you're going to be making. So if you write down, some of the things like maybe your goals or the outcome, I'm going to feel better, I'm going to have more energy, I'm probably going to sleep better, my attitude will be better, I won't be so cranky all the time because I'm not tired, maybe my body won't hurt so badly. Little things like that. Those are all positive things that you can get really jazzed about. And then also to looking at some of the negative things. What are some of the things that you're not looking forward to? And be honest and address those. And let's say it's because you might have to exercise every single day and you hate getting your heart rate up. Well, then you look at that and you say, okay, well, what are some things that I can do that are going to maybe offset that? Maybe I don't have to be so intense on my exercise every single day. Maybe I can create a plan during my week of planning while I wait for that date that I set to approach. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And it's really being, because especially with weight, it really, because your shape is going to change. And so not only your physical appearance is going to change, which is a little bit different than when you're dealing with managing stress or say, just wanting to get more sleep, for example. I've got a health goal to get more sleep and to, be somebody who gets 7 or 8 hours instead of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You're also going to have appearance changes there, but not usually as dramatic as the weight loss changes. So it has the greatest impact on your health.
Right.
And getting prepared for that. This is why I think weight loss has as much mindset stuff and these strategy things, because I know right down to the fact that when you are someone who enjoys food, taste and texture is a big deal.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things with shedding weight, releasing weight, is I'm not going to be able to get my favorite crunchy, gooey, sweet, cheesy, that comfort food, that mouth feel.
Exactly.
Being willing to change that out and think that through.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. But if you could if you even look at that as one of the cons and you say, I'm going to miss my favorite foods, well, in that time of waiting for your date to arrive, you can find healthy alternatives so that you won't feel robbed. Maybe you have a recipe that you like making every single week. Maybe you can spend that time learning to make it healthier versions. Like if you love brownies every day, putting applesauce in your brownies instead of oil. Or, I mean, just there's a lot of things that you could do during that time to prepare and get
And
you.
it really have a positive impact.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're a triple cheese pizza person, really cutting back to double cheese, you're not going to notice that you cut the cheese by 30%. You really, really won't.
Exactly.
One of the goals that you had also talked about was, and we talk about this as entrepreneurs, the difference between focusing so much on the results.
Right.
That increase, actually, when you're too focused on the results, you are much more likely to be into overwhelm. So it's being married to the daily activity, to the process. You said that was one of the best ways to deal with overwhelm. Why is that?
Well, because when you look at the overall goal, let's say you need to lose 50 pounds, that seems so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have all these habits that you have to learn to adapt and include as part of your new lifestyle. Right. That's just a lot on your plate. But if you could learn to break it up and be married to the process and not the result, then what you're going to do is you're going to take each day and you're going to make a plan about what are you going to do to live out my best day this day, not looking at what you did yesterday, not looking at what's going to happen tomorrow, but the here and now, and being present in the moment for what you need to do. Let's say, you have to get up and you're going to exercise and you have your prayer time and then you have your breakfast or whatever. You walk those steps out each and every day and you do it consistently. And if you have a little mess up, well, then you just document it, write it down in your journal, and you write down what would you do differently next time. So that automatically, emotionally, mentally sets you up for the next day. So a process.
That plan.
It's what you do day to day.
Because I think when I consider the people that I've coached, it's almost been the thing that keeps them overweight or not at a weight they want. And it could be 10 pounds, but it's 10 pounds in the wrong place. Or it could be 100 pounds, right? So when we talk to you, we're talking if anybody wants to lose between 5 and 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And that is a lack of planning, lack of meal planning, lack of planning what to eat, and feeling that if I don't have the spontaneity to eat whenever I want, that's deprivation.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that on another episode because that is a whole thing. It's actually one of the topics in Leaner for Life that we're talking about. The hunger cues, viewing food as fuel more than food as feelings, doing a lot of that kind of thing in the Leaner for Life program, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit.
Yes.
One of the things, too, I've learned that in Overwhelm, and it kind of comes off of what I just talked about, a structured program kind of plans things for you, but you also wanted to have a little bit of flexibility. How does the structured program, having a program, not the one that you're designing, maybe one that you can trust that's worked for a lot of people without getting into some strange things.
Well,
how does that cut back on overwhelm?
It does because it's laid out for you. And so you don't have to do a lot of thinking ahead. It's just all laid out and you just follow the plan, the structured plan. And then you add in a little exercise and drinking your water, checking your attitude and your mindset, and just working at each day in this manner. And then at the same time, too, looking at it as a learning standpoint, because it's laid out for you. What are you learning from what they're showing you? What are the foods that are being put in front of you? What are you learning about them? And the company that is doing it, because there's a lot of different companies out there that offer nutrition plans, but that doesn't mean that they're good for you. It just means that they're there for your ease and convenience. And how beneficial is that for you? The Leaner for Life plan is nutritionally packed and it's very sound. And so when you look at the contents of the packages and the foods and the way they taste, it can truly become a lifestyle.
Right.
And when you add in your fruits and your raw veggies and everything, it just really becomes a very balanced way of life. It can very easily become a lifestyle.
Well, and the beauty of the structure that we use in the Leaner for Life program, that's not the name of the products, but that's how the products work.
Yes.
That's the way we've structured it, because it's always a lifestyle issue. It's not just
Yes.
about,
It's not a
taking the
temporary
foods
thing.
and the products and then the fat just melts away. It doesn't really work like that,
No,
because your body doesn't work like that.
exactly.
That's why. And if you got products that make it work like that, it's doing something to your body. You're sure going to pay for it later. But the thing is, and we talked about this yesterday too, is being patient with yourself and all these things. We talked about checklists.
Yes.
A lot of times when we get people started, we only not only want to know your goal, but how you're sleepy during the day. Maybe you crave sweets during the day. Maybe, you go to bed at night and you wake up in the morning and you're stiff and you're sore and you're like, I'm 40 years old. I shouldn't be stiff and sore.
Right.
And that's a function of weight and some other things going on.
Exactly.
So when we do these checklists, what we're doing is we're actually measuring your progress before it even shows up on the scale, because especially with the products we use,
Right.
you're going to be building very important lean muscle. It's a very important driver for metabolism, but you may have burned off a pound of fat, gained a pound of lean muscle, and the scale says no change. But that's a huge shift in your body.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's what we're talking about. So one of the ways to combat overwhelm is to celebrate your wins. And by doing checklists, Donna, how often should people journal? What do you think they should try?
Well, when I do it personally, and when I have my clients do it, I have them do it daily. I have them waking up in the morning and they write down how they feel and what they would like to see change that day. And then at the end of the day, I have them evaluate how they feel things went for them. And not the result of the scale, not the result of all the foods that they ate, not and just overall, when I followed my plan, how did it make me feel? And then what do you want to change the next day and do differently, or what do you want to keep doing? And so when you document that stuff, you're putting a hand to mind connection. And it really does have a huge effect. And if you remember to do it daily, it really does help establish a change of habits and lifestyle.
And it doesn't take a lot of time. And I will say, if you're physically writing it out with a pen and a notebook, as opposed to a digital voice record, you literally you have a greater impression in your mind than you do digitally. I mean, it's crazy, but it's very true. The other thing with that is when you go back and you review your week or your month, you go, wow, I realized that when I started, man, getting 2 glasses of water in a day was like some huge thing. And now I'm drinking 5, 6, 7 glasses a day and it's not any trouble at all.
Right. Exactly.
And you need to celebrate that win.
Yeah, you need to.
That's important.
Even the little things, even the smallest of things, you need to celebrate.
That's right. And the last thing to conquering overwhelm is community.
Yes.
Being in a supportive community. Now, depending on how you see things, I know people say, I don't need a community. I'm strong enough. I can do it on my own. It's not about that. None of this stuff is a sign of weakness. Maybe you've been told that. Maybe that's one of the messages you're carrying around.
Right.
That I need to be able to do this on my own. If not, I'm too weak. So if you've got that message, I just want you to let you know that that's not truth.
Right.
It's not how God sees it. He has us. He says, don't forsake the assembling together of the brethren. He's talking about for worship and prayer and fellowship. But there's an important lesson there.
Exactly.
It's important to get together. Any progress worth doing, you've got to have a team.
Yes.
Nothing is really built as a solo act.
Right. And supporting and encouraging each other along the way. And when you're struggling and you see somebody else struggling that needs encouragement and you step in and breathe life into their situation and help them, it just makes all the difference in the world, and it'll uplift you at the same time.
That's right. That's right. And especially when you've got that accountability. So that's exactly why we put together the Leaner for Life program, which was actually the inspiration for the show that we're doing. And that is this. It is some products that we use with the company that we're partnered with. Lots of reasons why we do it. This is a very heavily studied program. It's designed to literally work with all of the various cofactors and for the physical perspective in weight gain. Because when you've gained weight, I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe it's 5-10% of your weight. For some people, if you're smaller, it might be 10 pounds. For somebody who's larger, it might be 15-20 pounds. Your body chemistry changes. It starts to shift towards holding on to weight and less to releasing weight. Yeah. So if you're not addressing that biochemical change that just happens,
right,
you need tools for that. You need to build the lean muscle. You need to make sure you're not getting hungry. You need to make sure part of not getting hungry is making sure you've got adequate vitamins, minerals, fatty acids.
Yes, exactly.
And the other thing is, like Donna said earlier, because part of it is planned for you and then you plan the rest, it eases you into planning, because quite a number of people, even if they're very well organized in much of their life, sometimes when it comes to their eating or their food, they're not.
Right.
And so it brings all those skill sets into this as well. So Leaner for Life, it's a holistic wellness program that we do. And if you've got just 5 pounds to shed, you're still going to benefit from it. If you don't have any weight to shed, we have something that we do. It's called a Prove It Challenge. It's really neat, and it's really helped a lot of people do the right kind of reset and get back on track so they can move their health forward.
Exactly.
Right. So it's a fabulous, fabulous program. We've helped the people lose, I think it's like 2 million pounds and 1 million inches. Mm-hmm. And it's just been phenomenal. It's incredibly healthy. You won't have cravings. You won't have hunger. And in fact, what was really interesting, one of the favorite studies that you liked about it was the Westcott study.
Oh, I love that study.
And what did they say about compliance, which means how many people did the program? What was unique about the compliance in that?
I don't remember the exact numbers, but the compliance was about 80-90%.
Which is massive anyway.
And then they were exercising, and just the outcome of even just exercising twice a week, what it did for people was just insane. It was so successful.
Yeah, and they were shocked at the compliance rate of people following this program, because it wasn't extreme.
Yeah.
In fact, it was almost so simple. It looked like, could it really work?
Yeah, exactly.
How's this going to happen? I'm not, power working out 5 days a week and all that kind of, how's this going to, but it did.
Right.
It did. And these were older people as well. I think they were over 50.
Yeah. So they weren't in their 20s, that's for sure.
That's right. So it was a group that normally has challenges just because of what happens as we add wisdom years.
Right.
They had a high compliance rate and a high maintenance rate. Yeah. And what was interesting is after following this, even on maintenance, people still continued to shed a little weight.
Yeah, they did.
So it didn't stop and come back up. It went... Yeah, kept moving in the right direction. So if you want more information about that, I put a link in the show notes here.
Yes.
It's on our website. You can go to womanwise.com. It's right there for you. If you want to talk to Donna and you don't know how to reach her, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with her. Okay. She's phenomenal. She's helped my daughter a lot. You'll love working with her. And the Leaner for Life, we're doing our launch meeting very soon. Get with us. We'll get you that date and that web link to be a part of that. All right. So thank you so much for
so exciting.
It is. I'm just so excited about this. Thank you so much for joining us on Divine Healthy Living. Want to remember that you were created for health.
Yes.
And you were created to live in the shalom of God. That's freedom and wholeness and all of his blessings. So We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.